Yes, you're gonna have people turn their backs, but it's time for us to keep it real. Just keep talking that real, bro. Do what you do. I know what you do, so keep doing that. Talk the real.
The HBI lads will see you now. See you now. See you now.
I don't want to cause no problems. I just want to live my life, but I keep on hearing about nonsense.
More into like pure rehab. That's fine. But people want it, right? Like that's like there's that mix. It's probably the same for you as well, Dan. Like people want a bit of manual work, and the rehab is the adjunct, right? Like it's the stuff that really helps that long term. But a lot of people, like, they come to see me because they want to get heavy manual work. They want that speed up, or some of it's personal preference, but a lot of people I see that haven't had the result, they're just like, man, they're just like fluffing about. I just need someone to move me around a bit, and then let's get rolling from there. So for me, it's like, it's a thing. I just don't know why it's such a random thing. Like I would have thought it would be the standard.
Osteo is not so much the problem. Like we're probably the opposite end of the spectrum, where everyone's really heavy manual therapy, but not really much exercise rehab stuff. So, but yeah, I think definitely I've noticed a lot of the physios in my area, or physios in Melbourne, and to a lot of people sent from me and they haven't got any manual therapy, which is interesting, and they're not really happy with it. So other than Benny, I don't really know many people doing that.
The manual therapy side of things.
Yeah, like there's a few physios in a 5K radius of me, and I get probably 5 or 10 patients. When I was in Melbourne, I was getting probably 5 or 10 patients a month from the same two places because they used to do hands-on. Same with another clinic nearby that was an osteo, but they're into the like the Grey. Is it Grey Cook FMS where you got that like cage and you do the stretching? Yeah, like they only do that.
I don't know.
There's no tables in the clinic, no tables at all. Like they just walk in, you just walk, do the stretch, and go home. And so.
That fucking baffles me how people pay for that shit. Does that like physios in general to me, I seriously contemplate how their businesses survive. Like your, demographics and shit obviously can dictate what services you will run and what are going to be popular. But like, obviously the heavy manual stuff, cupping, whatever, doesn't really suit older sort of more traditional type people. And you definitely don't go to see your physio for that stuff. But to get people to pay like $90 for you to watch them stretch and guide their stretches, I'm just like, how? Yeah. Like, how are people paying for that shit?
Why wouldn't you just pay to see an ex-phys, right? They're a movement specialist.
Oh, do fucking yoga class on YouTube.
The ex-phys, strength and conditioning coach. Get like, if you're going to pay for a coach rather than like we've spoke before on this, right? Like most like allied health professionals don't have a fucking clue how to move, right? Like, They've read it, but they've not actually done it. So why don't pay someone who actually specializes in it, like an ex-phys, right? Like a strength and conditioning coach. Like it baffles me. And even some of that stuff, like the SFMA, FMS stuff, like we had the FMS in my old clinic. It just seems like a bit of it just seems like another evaluation for evaluation's sake. It's like, let's do these things. I just don't think it told you much, right? And like, I didn't see a correlation between people getting better at it and getting better. And I also saw a bunch of people that were like not in good ways and functionally really poor, doing really well. And they got like 16 out of 19 or 21 or whatever. It's like pretty good score. And I'm like, so how's everything else? They're like, I can barely move. You're like, so you can just, because those ones, if you know what's going on, you can just cheat it. And I remember just being like, I don't want to get my patients to do this because it's worthless. I don't even look at it, like, because it tells me nothing. And then being told I had to do it, right? Like, and I was just like, it's not, no. So
it's a lot of like so many things, especially in physios, about. I find there's a lot of data collection, a lot of information collection, but like I work with Rulan all the time, and like he goes, the things you do are so simple and seem like stupid, but what you get from it is all you need. It's actually relevant and specific to what you actually do. Yeah. And like, you're not wasting time collecting data that is like, not usable to then like really influence the outcome of the clients. Like I think those things are really important for like newbies or like people who don't have a whole lot of clinical experience, or like not like a personal trainer or something like that, where there's specific screening methods that like they're important, but
like it's a different stage as well. Like acute injury and performance are different methods. Like this is my thing about. And it's going to change day to day. Like useless. Dan, you've got the accent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
What's
it's
that cost?
great.
Oh, yeah, pretty expensive. I think it was 22 in total.
Jesus.
But even then, it's like, I've been using it, and I think it's pretty much, it's cool, but it's like nice to have, not need to have. I don't necessarily do the assessment and go, oh, wow, like it's changed my methodology or changed my
Another objective measure.
It's probably more of a sales tool than anything else, right? It's a point of difference.
Yeah.
It's a marketing tool, and also it's the same as a diagnosis. It's like you don't need to you don't need to know it, but it's like kind of cool for you to know. And also
extra.
I really like
I want to get it,
Axit,
yeah.
right? But my concern with some of it, like when we were Jack, obviously a good friend of mine, had it, and we were pulling against the cage and everything, and that was really awesome. But for 99% of people that walk through your door, even if you're in a gym-based population with an injury, you're not having them pull max mid-shin. You're not going to get them to push maximal force out of the bottom because they're not in a position to do it. Again, it's more of a performance metric once they're moving further along. I found for most of that stuff, it's like meh. Like that's why when I went to Human Track, at least it's a movement screen that tracks things, right? And again, I'm full disclosure to my clients. I can do this visually. It just is better for you to be able to see what's going on and for us to track it.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes as practitioners, we think we need more and more stuff. We need this latest thing, and it isn't really changing anything. I know we've spoken about this a lot, but it just keeps coming up. It's just one of those ones where you're like, most people don't care about that stuff. They care about feeling better. And if we can make them feel better, like if they want to transition into that more performance-based, like I've got guys that bring up their full programs and stuff as well, but then it's relevant. But for most people, when you first come in, it's not. And for the cost benefit, man, for a lot of you, I just don't think it's there.
To be honest, between us three, we're on record. It's pretty much sitting there collecting dust. I haven't used it as much as I thought I would. Because for me, it was purely from a marketing business point of view when I was in Melbourne as a point of difference. Like you said, even now in Adelaide training, like being more training S&C focused at the moment, not doing much treatment at all. I've like barely used it. And when I do use it, it's like kind of fun just to see how things are moving or like with clients who are more advanced. But it's just legit. It's like a novelty rather than I need it sort of situation. So yeah, I'd agree with that. But I think bit of a selfish buy. I just wanted it.
Yeah, I get that.
I think it's cool. Like, and I've talked about getting it, and that we're not just hanging shit on that because it's definitely useful.
It's
fantastic.
It's a great tool.
Elite,
fantastic tool.
Equipment, and I'm sure there will be times where you use it a lot and times where you won't use it a lot. Just like we go through. You got to head off. Easy. Just like you go through different methodologies with your treatments. Sometimes things works great. Other times it's more a preference from, I think, the practitioner. What do you feel like using? Like, can I be fucking bothered to get out the equipment and do the measurement, or is it more important now to get that pain relief versus like the measurement on fucking shoulder external rotation strength in neutral? Like, what's going to give you more bang for your buck and get that client the results they want and are after, and then obviously the buy-in to continue treatment to get them to where they need to be.
Yeah, 100%. That's been the biggest thing. It's like, unless someone comes in for an actual session, it's like trying to use it during a session when there's more important things that are going to give you more valuable information in a shorter time and more easily accessible. Then it's definitely the thing to kind of consider. But yeah, it's more so, I guess, like the idea of it is, using it, like use it as a micro thing initially. Like they might come in and you do like 1 or 2 tests with the smaller gadget because it's easy to whip out. You can kind of whip it out, test out some shoulder external rotation. Kind of like what you do with me. It's like you test out my external rotation. It was really shit. You do like 30 minutes of treatment, then you retest it and it's like, oh wow, like look how much rotation you've got or power you've got. Like ends up being a bit of a marketing tool wow factor in the early stages or in attraction stages from a marketing point of view, because you might be the only clinic in your 20K radius that has it. And people want to come in just to get tested. But then I guess it's more like Nathan said, like after they've had 4 or 6 sessions and they're feeling good and we've done everything we need to do. And it's like, cool, now instead of you going off and just being on your own for the next 3 months, like let's do some baseline testing, which are going to facilitate your programming. And, it's very much a business thing. Cause like, yeah, now you've got something for them to come back in 4 weeks time, 6 weeks time to then retest rather than like them just going off. So it's more of that like accountability check-in. Like I would write the program like same as you. You don't need that testing to know what program to give them. You don't need that testing to reassess every 4 weeks, but it's more like from a client point of view, they're a lot more likely to actually follow the protocol because they've got numbers in front of them, and they're a lot more likely to come back in 4 weeks because, like, oh, I want to know if I've improved my test. So I think, yeah, it's definitely more of a client-based thing rather than us as practitioners. In terms of
like
getting buy-in and getting adherence to the protocols.
Yeah, 100%. It will. Shit like that does attract a certain population, like, and it's only relevant to certain people. As you said, there are pros and cons to it because, as you said, people can want to come back to get it reassessed if they've been compliant with their rehab. Now, let's say they don't do their rehab and their appointment's coming up next week. Like, they're probably likely to push that thing back because they'll go, hey, look, I haven't done it. So it almost can be, I wouldn't say as big as a deterrent as an encouragement, but it could also work as a deterrent if the person is not like a compliant client who, you know, sticks to the rehab and all those sort of things. So I think that it could also work against you. But in general, like, if it's more, as I said, more a preferential thing as a practitioner, and if you're dealing with clients who are high-end athletes, or whether you need to collect data for studies or something like that, then that thing's like fantastic.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's very like niche, but I'd still like to have it just because it looks fancy and stuff. So I might have to come use yours and borrow yours just to get some feedback on it. But it sounds expensive, bro.
Yeah, like, look, it's it's definitely a luxury, nice to have, not need to have sort of thing. But like you said, it's more, if you've got everything, if your garden's watered and everything else is in place, and then that's the final piece of the puzzle you kind of add just as a bit of an extra point of difference, I guess. It's nice, but I mean, yeah, it's also quite expensive. But I mean, it's pretty flexible. Like, I think I'm paying $500 a month for it. So like, you don't have to pay for it outright. So I mean, realistically, if you work it out from a marketing point of view, if you're charging, like, the way they kind of encourage you to use it is to have it as a separate session where you charge a little bit more. So if you're charging $150 per session, it's like
an exit session or whatever.
Yeah, like, you've paid that back. You get one session a week and you're kind of paying the bills anyway. So I mean, when you look at it from a business point of view, return on investment wise, it's actually, you know, a bit of a no-brainer if you can use it properly. And then if you were going to push it properly and you were getting 4 or 5 sessions a week for it, then, you know, the return on investment is just, yeah, makes sense. But it's just, I think, depends if you don't have the foundations there, and then it's not going to magically make your business for you. But if you got it, for example, like, your business is thriving, you got people coming left, right, and center. It's just a value add where you can A, have a second kind of revenue stream, and B, add more value or increase your current kind of consult rate to something different.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. It's more the how useful, the utility of it. Like, let's say it's you and you're the only practitioner, so therefore you're the only one who can use it. But let's say you get like a 3rd year in and you teach them how to use the technology, and you're not exactly running a physio osteo session, but you're running more an exit or a data collection session where you just train like some student to run it for you. Therefore, you can make more money off the student because technically you're charging at a higher price based on the type of session it is. So I think if you're quite smart, you could really make a lot of money off that. But it's about having the resources to do so, and like the space and all that sort of shit. So, but the business wise, it makes sense. And I think it is a good ad. And then if you want to run your clinic as like, Daniel is the proper strength and conditioning osteo. He's got all the equipment, state of the art facility. He's got pretty much a gym set up. Like, it just makes sense. Is like, that is just like even more of an incentive to come along and see you. Like, yeah. And then what we were talking about before, like, if you can then bring like a hybridized practitioner with whatever extra business shit you may have to somewhere like Adelaide or Perth or something, like, I think like you could just dominate the market. Like, I think because we're all in Melbourne, so, and I forget all the time, you know, because practice to you is normal, right? Like, competition is high. You've got to be on the cutting edge of always like getting better or improving. But if then you go back to where I'm from in the country, I'm like, my business would not survive in the country because A, there's not enough demand or people, but B, this type of practice is too like left too left of field for that population to even gravitate to, because it's too fancy, it's too woo-woo. It gets called woo-woo alternative practice within a city, let alone like in a country town where things are years behind. So it really, the shit you said, how you're doing really well over there and you're seeing different types of clientele, it just, to me, it sounds amazing about like, man, well, what happens if you just planted businesses like in each state, or you just run your Melbourne type of practice at Adelaide, in Perth, in Sydney, in Brisbane? It'd be amazing to see what happens, because you've already got the personal branding and stuff, and you've always got some established of a network in Adelaide, but have you found it easier to get busier there than you did when you first started in Melbourne? Or the effort it took to get it to where it is?
Well, it's hard to say, because it's like I've also, as much as I've only been here for a little bit, I've been like the total summation of time of me being in Adelaide probably started about a year and a half ago. So it's like it's still been a slow cooking process of building networks over here, because I probably came over December 2018, ran a seminar. Yeah, so it was like, it's easy now that I'm here because I've had a year and a half behind me of coming to do seminars and seeing people. So like this time, like on this specific occasion, it's been super busy, and I've been getting people like referred left, right, and center. All the coaches want to come see me, all the coaches' clients want to come see me. So it's like, it's been easy, but I guess, so it's hard to say, like, was that, if you looked at it that way, it's like, yeah, it's been easy to build up in Adelaide, but realistically that's been a year and a half of building things. And then same sort of thing in Melbourne. It was like definitely harder in Melbourne physically, because it was just like me sitting in my clinic, twiddling my thumbs while things built up around me, compared to here is kind of like it was building in the background via social media, via branding. And then when I came here, it was a face-to-face influx of people. So I feel like it probably would be easier here though, just because the fact, like from an osteo point of view, there's only 3,000 osteos in all of Australia. Of that, there's about 1,500 in Melbourne, 1,000 in Sydney. I looked it up on the census when I first finished uni. I was like kind of just having a start about where to start my business, and in Adelaide there was 40 osteos at the time. And even when I came here, when I came here for the first week I was here, I had a really bad, like my QL just went spastic, and I think it was just 2 weeks of ISO at a computer, and I was just going on Google trying to book myself in for an osteo. There's 8 places. And like, you know, when you go onto a website in Melbourne, you go our team, and there's like 15 people at a clinic. You go onto our team, it's like the owner and one person. Like it wasn't even a team, it's like a duo. And it's the same. And then you think about it though, it's like there's 8 places, there's like 2 or 3 each. That's like 20 practitioners, and that's it. Like there's 20 practitioners in Adelaide versus 1,500 in Melbourne. So
what the heck, bro? That's insane.
So then, but then you look at, and then, you know, obviously if you look at a per person ratio, like 6 million people in Melbourne, 1,500 practitioners versus like 40 practitioners in Adelaide, 2 million people in Adelaide. So it's like, even there's less people, but still as a ratio, it's significantly less. And then when you start to combine more that niche of like being an osteo or being a physio that kind of combines S&C, it's even more niched. So yeah, it's like, I feel like once you plant your roots here, like it would definitely be easy to build up with that niche market. But then the only downside would be that no one knows what an osteo is, because there's no. But then, I mean, I don't think that really matters. Once you get a brand, people kind of, if it's referral based, people don't care if you're a witch doctor, an osteo, or a bloody car salesman. They'll come see you if they think you can fix them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, man, look, it has crossed my mind, and my missus has tried to convince me a few times of like just set up shop in Adelaide CBD and just be the man. And but I don't know. I do like Melbourne.
Yeah, that's a trade-off, right? You could, let's say you could either you franchise it, or you individually go around and start all your businesses and get a team on under you, and you just go from state to state or capital city to capital city and establish the business and do really well because competition is low. But like Mina talks about as well, like myotherapist isn't a well-known profession. Like people don't actually know what that means. And osteopath, as you said, people don't exactly know a whole heap of what an osteopath is in Adelaide. And that's like a major capital city in Australia. So it makes you think whether that would be good. I've even thought about running like at least having a company like internationally, like people say like the type of shit you do would do well in America or something, for example, or someone says, you know, you could run your business in this country and it will do really well. I'm just like, and then you look at the advantages of like taxation and how like the cost of the services, and you could charge it at a premium. It makes you really wonder, like, man, should I like pick up the business and just run it somewhere else? But there are massive advantages of living in Melbourne because it's a city, right? The lifestyle is good. The demand's always high, but if you can work it out mathematically, you might actually be dealing with less people based on the competition around. There's like over 30,000 physios in Australia.
There's 4,000 people per osteo in Melbourne, and there is 50,000 people per osteo in Adelaide.
Yeah.
So that's like 12 times.
12.5 times.
And I think the only reason osteo is not very well known here is because the osteo only gets run at Melbourne and Sydney at the moment, like the actual courses themselves. So, you know, it's a bit of an effort because you've got to go over to Melbourne or Sydney to study if you're not from Melbourne or Sydney. And then, you know, if you study in Melbourne, Sydney, how many people are going to say, oh, I want to move to Adelaide, want to move to Perth? Like, with all due respect, if you live in Melbourne, Sydney, you're probably going to stay there because it's one of the nicest places. So, you know, the only people that really move to Adelaide and Sydney, like half the osteos in Adelaide are people I went to uni with. Like, they're from Melbourne and they've gone there because it's easier to get a job, or it's quieter and they like the lifestyle. But yeah, like there's not really much in Adelaide because it's just the accessibility of actually getting that course. It's either you go there and study, and it's 5 years too, so, you know, so it's not like you're just leaving for 6 months. It's like you completely, you know, you're 18 years old, you finish high school, and now you've got to go for 5 years and be away from your family for 12 months. I mean, you know, 9 months of the year and all that kind of jazz. So you can see why it's not really very well known outside the two main states. But yeah, I don't know. For me personally, I'd just happily be online and do face-to-face where I am and not have to have a like physical location. As much as I love my gym and my studio, it's been the biggest thing here has made me realize how nice it is just being able to have flexibility and not have to like be pinned down and have a massive location you're paying a massive lease for. Like, for you, I mean, you're similar, but I guess, you know, at least with your places, if you're renting a room,
that's it.
Yeah, like renting a room, like how much does that cost you? A couple $100 a week?
$350 for one and $330 for the other.
Yeah, so I mean,
and like you run like, especially yourself, like if I charge like $100 a session or whatever, like that's both rooms are paid off within like
day's work.
You know, two-thirds of the day, right? One day. Yeah. So then you get people underneath you, and you like it comes quite like it's a limited capacity based off the space, but in terms of a ROI and margin, it's actually really good and allows you to, save extra money for extra things, which is like really. But I do plan on getting a space and running like maybe 4 physios. I'll get Amir in-house as well, and I want to get some of my other friends like a naturopath and a doctor of Chinese medicine in-house to have it sort of the team housed in one area, run the elite sort of physical therapist that I like to be and I like to teach. And then, like you said, I'm going to scale the business with education and courses. Like that's truly scalable versus trying to franchise out your business or be major shareholders in each franchisee location or whatever it may be. So from a business perspective, I'm like, yeah, courses are much more scalable versus brick and mortar. Yeah.
Anything that doesn't have a physical location and has less humans involved is more scalable.
Yeah. And I listened to some podcasts on that. Like people are basing the successfulness of a business on how many people are working there. It's just like, well, look, it shouldn't be based on how many people work with you or for you or whatever. It's like, how big are your margins? Like, what's your freedom like? Are you living the life that you want to live? How much money are you making? Because as you know, the location plus more and more staff equals more and more expenses. So profit margins tend to get a little bit smaller depending on how you're running it. Plus managing people, bro. It's good to be a leader and it's good skills to have. But managing a massive team would suck. I'd like to manage just 5 or 6.
Yeah. That's why I like the mentoring though. It's like you're doing the coaching, you're doing the mentoring, you're doing like the leading without the associated risk of that you have to run the extra stuff. Like if I hire 10 people, it's still mentoring, still coaching, but now it's like business in terms of I have to make sure they got money, they have food to put on the table, that I'm getting my margins met, versus like mentoring, I get paid for it. I still get to do the exact same thing. So it's like flipping the tables where I still get to do what I love and I'm passionate, but it just like takes all the risk away and turns the risk into actually making money.
Yeah, but does limit you because then you don't have additional revenue streams coming from those people. But like there's pros and cons from everything. Right. Now you could set up a business where you have your, let's say you run a few packages on your mentorships and your mentees, and you teach them a bit of clinical stuff and a bit of business stuff. And then you say, look, for every, rather than you paying a one-off fee or a subscription-based fee, you pay me a commission on the clients that you see, right? So it's like, let's say you've got 10 osteos studying under you in your group. The fee is, all right, I'll take 10% of what you earn per week, rather than paying a one-off subscription, a monthly subscription basis, and or like a one-off sort of lump sum fee at the start. Like that would be, I think that I've always thought about that, like scaling the business like that, like, and who knows how long and how well that would work. But
there's a guy in the gym I used to work at in Good Life Point Cook. There's a PT, what should I call it? Like a PT mentorship sort of model, and they did the same thing. Like they'd bring on like someone would finish their Cert 3-4, they'd start up a Good Life, and then like they'd take them under their wing and like mentor them, give them all the business skills, like how to sell, how to do consults, like upskill, skill set, all that stuff as well. And it was pretty similar. It would be like a 12-month mentorship, but instead of having them pay, they would just they'd pay their rent and they'd take 30% or something, which was smart. But I know I'd want to find a way that still is like ethical and doesn't put them under the pump, because I saw the effects of a lot of the guys that went through that, and it was like they're paying rent to Good Life, which is $300, and then they're paying 30-40% of what they earn to the company. It's like they end up working 20-30 hours a week and getting paid $20 an hour and are under the pump, working 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. And it's like, like I don't really want to have. I'm not saying that's what you were saying, but it's like I want to find that happy medium where like your idea is really good, but like how do you make it work where they're still getting a good lifestyle, but it's also feasible for both parties. I mean, for me, I don't really care about the money. I think you can make money in whatever way you want. My idea was, if I was going to scale that, having like a pool of coaches and clinicians there, like there's probably 50 people who have gone through so far. If I can get that to like 100, it's like sweet. Like let's pick the two golden students, the 2A plus students, the 2 HD students, and like they could, then come on and work
take
for me.
2 per year. Yeah, 2 per year is the capacity you run it at. You run it at like a scarcity type point of view. Only 2 can make it. Therefore, the incentive is much higher for them to push harder and do much better. So you increase the performance of the whole group, and then you offer them the very scarce opportunity to come work with you. And that's a good model to run as well. And that would even work quite well with potential, like you said, hiring of potential staff. Like the only people that you do hire have to go through your program and have to be top performers.
Well, that's what I was thinking about when I was talking to you earlier. I think it was earlier this year, and I said I wasn't sure if I wanted to hire someone. I was like, man, because you got to bring someone on, you got to mentor them for 6 months, and then like there's a lot of work. I'm like, if I came back to Melbourne and I wanted to hire someone, or even I stayed in Adelaide and wanted to hire someone, at least now it's like sweet, just like go in the Facebook group of my 50 coaches and like pick out the best two. Yeah, it's pretty easy. But also, if I was to scale it, like it means I probably don't need that physical location, because I could be like, I'm going to stay in Adelaide, or I'm going to stay in Melbourne, or hell, I'm going to be a gypsy and just like fly around Australia and just do whatever I want. And like I could have coach in Adelaide, coach in Queensland, where it still goes through my brand, but then I'd be like, cool, I'll do the initial consultation via online, get all the information. Then like, cool, I'm going to send you to Ben in Melbourne, or send you to like Nate in Perth. And then they do like the in-person sessions, where it's like, you're still creating a team and creating a brand, but it's like just taking that physical location, expenses, risks, responsibility out of it essentially, and just kind of doing it all scaled.
Yeah. And that's just, and you just, as you said, if you want to keep it ethical is a subjective thing. Everyone has their own ethical compass, but if you just take it, if you got volume of people and you take a small percentage off each, so you're just skimming off the top.
Yeah.
That is quite fair. If you got your systems, your branding's all set up, like that works quite well. And then I've also thought about, because we refer a lot of people out to different chiros or sports doctors, where I'm like, even running like a type of commission-based client referral, like sort of system as well. So every client I refer you, you know, I will take 5% of the consult fee, for example.
Yeah.
Which can then like sort of partner you up all these different businesses. So then you're not only like getting clients good outcomes, but you're also obviously pocketing some money here and there. Like I've thought about that, but I never really thought if that's the best way to run it, because then you start driving. Like if you've got the right team, like I've got a fantastic team around me, so it works really good now. But let's say you got a practitioner or someone in your team who's not that good, and you know there's better people out there, but you understand you get more money if you send them to them. So then you get the real ethical decision there, whether you make more money or you send them to the right person.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I feel like it's something that could work, but it's one of those things where if there's one bad egg or one kink in the chain, then the whole system gets blown up in smoke, sort of thing. Like if it was you, me, Mina, Nathan, and your mate who's a chiro doing it, it's like, well, everyone's on the same page. Everyone would like it. It would work so well. But if it was like you have one person now who's not really this on the same page or doesn't agree with it, or I don't know, then it just like ruins it for everyone else, sort of thing. So it's a hard one to do because you'd have to really like know your circle. But I like the idea of it. But then again, it's like if you had that situation, like if it was you, me, Mina, and Nathan, it's like I wouldn't really care anyway. I would just be like, cool, man. Like I'll happily send you all my people.
Your friends, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's weird. Like, and then there's the thing about, you know, how many people. I don't know. There's just so many potentials for someone to get cracky and like, oh, well, I sent you this many people and you don't send me that many people. And like, I feel like whenever there's money involved, it just makes for more potential of people getting sour and shitty about things versus just good, you know, just goodwill, pat on the back, like non-monetary exchange of value versus monetary exchange of value.
Yeah, these are all shit. We should once all four of us are back on, we should run over this again and just brainstorm a heap of ideas, different models, different strategies, different opinions on each strategy that we present, almost like a Shark Tank sort of like session where it's just like, all right, a business brainstorm. These are all the ideas, because I got more ideas. I'm sure you got more ideas. Like there's plenty of ways to make money, but it's just about how you do it. All right, bro. Well, we'll finish it up there. You keen on that?
Yeah, man. Sounds good.
I know what I'll do with this, whether I do anything at all. It's just you and me rambling about stuff. I can't hear you, bro.
Oh, no, sorry. I just had to yell out.
Oh, all good. All right, bro.
Sounds good, man.